So income inequality is probably one of the most politically charged topics that we touch in economics. And really, in this class, we're just going to touch it very, very lightly. And really all that we're going to talk about is the Lorenz curve. It was named after a guy with the last name of Lorenz. And he came up with this in kind of the early 1900s. And it's just a way of looking at income inequality. So we're going to draw this a little bit backwards because I think it makes more sense that way. So on this axis we are going to go from 0% to this will be 100%, and this is going to be the percentage of the population. So this will be percent of the population will be on the x-axis, and then on the y-axis we're going to go, this will be 0%. And I'll do this in a different color here. So we'll go 0% up to 100%, and that will be the percent of the total national income. So this is percent of income. And so the first thing I'm going to draw is what's called the line of income equality. And so that's designed to be a 45-degree line. You know what, I can probably do a little bit better job than that. So this is a 45-degree line, and this is the way that you read it. So if this is, let's say that this is 50% of the population, you would go up to this line, and because it's 45 degrees, then when you go over here, you're also going to hit 50%. So this would mean that 50% of the population controls 50% of the national income. Now let's go, we'll take 25% over here. So if we go up to the line of income equality and we go over, then we're going to hit 25% over here. And so what this line means is that everyone makes the exact same amount. So in green, everyone makes the exact same. And you can see 25% of the population controls 25% of the income, 50% of the population controls 50% of the income, and so on. I could do another line for 75, but I'm just going to not because I think it'll get too crowded. So now in reality, we always actually have a curve that looks something like this. And you know what, I'm going to redraw that because I want this to actually look good. So this will be, this we can call the Lorenz curve for economy or for nation A. So in blue, we're going to have the Lorenz curve for nation A. And you know what, let's just call this, rather than nation A, we'll say for the USA. So here's the way you look at this then. Because it's underneath the line of perfect income inequality, there is not perfect equality, and I'm going to go ahead and show you why in just one second. Not perfect equality. And so let's go look at that before we move on. So if we go up at 25% of the population right here, we go to here, then we have to go over, and we see that 25% of the population controls less than 25% of the wealth. So let's say that this is just 5% of the wealth, and I'm just kind of pulling this out of nowhere. So then we go to 50%, and let's say that 50% of the nation now controls 20% of the wealth. Sorry, of the income. I've been saying wealth, I mean income. And then you go up to here, and I'm going to draw one more point here. So let's draw like 90% of the population. So 90% of the population, if we go up, we go over, we see that this is about 60%. So that last 10% of the population controls 40% of the income. So let me restate that one more time. This last 10%, the the 10% that has the highest income controls 40% of the income. And so that's how you see that there is income inequality in a Lorenz curve that is U-shaped like this. So now the more U-shaped that this Lorenz curve becomes, the more unequal the income is. So let's look at this one. In purple, we have that 90% of the population only controls 25% of the income. So the top 10% of the population, this last 10%, controls now an entire 75% of the income. So the more U-shaped, the more bent the Lorenz curve is, the more unequal the distribution of income is in a nation. So the only other thing that I really think is worth stating in this video is that in reality, when we go try and actually calculate this Lorenz curve for nations, the more developed nations, on average, so the more developed nations actually end up having less inequality, have less income inequality. And in other words, since that's a double negative, they are more equal. Just to kind of rephrase it in nicer English. So really that's all that I want to say about income inequality. The Lorenz curve you definitely need to know how to interpret and understand. And really that's all that I think needs to be said in this place.